Are you one of the cool kids? I'm not. I never was. Can there possibly be cool kids among toy collectors? If there are, I think they're the ones that have collected Mythic Legions since the beginning. Let's talk about Mythic Legions, here on Big Anklevich, on Toys.
I wish that I could be like the cool kids, 'cause all the cool kids, they seem to fit in.
I've dipped in and out of collecting over the years. Here and there have been things that have pulled me away, or even pushed me away. During those interims, things still keep happening. Toys still keep coming out. And then, eventually, the siren song of the toys calls me back, and I'm sad because there are all sorts of good toys that I missed, and now I'll probably never have them because they cost a ton on eBay. Mythic Legions was one such toy line. It started with a highly successful Kickstarter campaign back in 2015, where donors pledged 323% of the money requested in the first place. The Four Horsemen were the company behind the Kickstarter, and even though they were a small company, they were still well known for high-quality stuff. A little while ago, I started seeing people showing off their collections of Mythic Legions, and I became more and more enamored with the figures. They're just so beautifully designed and sculpted and painted. This is what the cool kids had. They didn't play with Star Wars Black or Marvel Legends or DC Multiverse. These were where it was at, and they were right down my alley. I really like fantasy stories with knights and demons, queens and orcs, and minotaurs and trolls. When I was in high school and first became a novel reader, I grew to love reading and wanted to become an author because of the many fantasy novels I read. But I was a Mythic Legions noob. I wasn't one of the cool kids. I'm old. I'm not used to these new ways of doing business that people use these days. You youngins with your Kickstarters and pre-orders and in-stock sales, that seems to be the way that the Four Horsemen do their business. A lot of other companies as well these days, even big ones like Hasbro and Mattel are doing it. When the Four Horsemen had an in-stock sale last year, I didn't realize that everything was going to sell out quickly. I expected that I had time to think over which figures I wanted to buy and which ones I wanted to skip.
On your mark, get set, go!
I didn't realize that I actually had to treat the sale like the supermarket sweep game show.
Where's she heading? Well, she stops in our detergent section. And what's there? The Oxidol on our shopping list.
Yeah, that's another thing that us old people know. They've had a few waves since then, but none of the figures spoke to me like the ones from the Soul Spiller, Advent of Decay, and Mythic Legions All-Stars 2.0 waves. That was where the figures I really wanted were. Just a few months later, my dreams finally came true. They'd shipped out all the orders from those waves, and now it was time for another in-stock sale. This time, I was ready.
She's going for our big 5-pound blocks of cheese.
Unfortunately, the Four Horsemen weren't ready. I was on their website the moment the clock ticked over to 8 p.m. Eastern Time on July 17th, and the sale started. The site was assaulted with collectors trying to buy up the stuff, and it slowed, stopped, crashed, caught fire, and burned merrily for hours. Apparently, the demand for Mythic Legions had only grown since the last time they had done one of these sales. I kept hitting refresh over and over, hoping to get through. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, longer. At about 20 minutes, I gave up and did other things, keeping the browser window in the corner so I could see if things changed. That might have been the key to my success, because if you let the site churn away long enough, it eventually loaded. So I clicked on something, nothing happened, and I did other things, and eventually it churned long enough that the site loaded again. So, using this method, I went through and chose all the figures that I wanted, or all the figures that were still available that I wanted. And at last, I got to join the Cool Kids Club. I waited patiently, well, impatiently, for them to arrive. I may have checked the tracking on my package more times than I'm willing to admit here. And at last, my box arrived. All right, we're gonna open this thing up, and I am so excited. I don't know why I'm so geeked out about this. It's my first Mythic Legions, and I can't wait. Now, most of the figures I got because I thought that not only are they totally cool, but they'd look rad on a special shelf at Halloween time. I got skeletons, a demon, a vampire. They're all so amazing, good looking, and intricately detailed and painted. The quality of these figures is top notch. And Halloween time is here. Now that I've got these beauties, it's time to put together their display. Since I got a bunch of skeletons, I thought it would be cool to make their diorama a spooky cemetery. Like the skeletons had just risen from the graves. So I needed some graves, a big, spooky, gnarly tree, and then I thought I'd see if I could make some fog out of cotton balls to go on the ground. First up was the tree. I found this video with a method that I thought I could manage to succeed at.
Today I'm going to show you how I made this fantastical tree.
If you want the full details of how to do it, watch her video. The link is in the show notes. The actual tree that she made was not what I was after, but I was pretty sure I could use her methods to make a regular tree for my graveyard. I started by measuring how tall my shelf is, because the last thing I wanted was to make a tree too big to fit in its place. Then I started sculpting with foil and masking tape. After a bit, this was what I'd come up with. I thought it looked pretty good. I used paper towels dipped in watered down glue to cover my framework, and after hours and hours and hours of drying, I let it dry all night, and then the next day, I had something that looked like this. That's when I realized that I'd overdone it with the worries about the tree not fitting on the shelf. This thing I made was too small. It was barely taller than the figures I was planning to pose in front of it. This wouldn't do. I was gonna have to make one more tree, dang it. So back to work. I put some toilet paper rolls in the middle of the foil this time to give it some more sturdiness and size. I checked the size of the tree against the shelf height again and again as I sculpted it until I had this better, bigger tree. Again, I did the paper towels dipped in glue from the video I referred to earlier, and now the big tree has that awesome bark texture. I used a fan to dry it this time, and that went much quicker. I tried adding some branches with some crafting wire on this tree, and I covered them with hot glue to give them some slight thickness. No idea how our glue gun got the green glitter glue stick added, but it didn't matter, I was painting over it. And it was time to paint. I started with an undercoat of black. I watered down the paint so that it was much thinner to make sure that it filled in all of the cracks. After that dried, it was time for the overcoats. I dry brushed on a dark brown called melted chocolate, and then later a lighter brown called chestnut. Lastly, an even lighter dry brush with a tan color called khaki. The dry brush coats give just highlights for a more realistic bark look. I added in a little more straight black because I wanted the tree to be as dark and shadowy as possible. So with both trees painted, I could put them in place on the shelf. Now I needed to make some graves. I got some styrofoam and some spackle at the dollar store. I made the first grave cutting out a headstone and hot gluing it to a base, then spread spackle over it. I didn't really like the results much though, so I decided that I would try foam core for the rest of the graves. I probably only had room for 2 more. I made a pattern and cut out several layers, then hot glued them together. Once I had them assembled, I spread spackle over them and let them dry. Now it was just time for the paint. Again, I did several layers with dry brushing overcoats, black, then gray, then white for some highlights. Trees, check. Graves, check. Now all that remained was the cotton ball fog. I took some cotton balls and pulled them apart as much as I could into little wisps. Now, we assemble the whole thing. Spooky, scary skeletons. There you go. The first bit of my Halloween decorations is on the shelf, and it looks pretty darn cool, I think. I'll do another video on the rest of my decorations as I put them up. Watch for that to come soon. I can't wait. I love it. So Mythic Legions is becoming a well-oiled machine these days. No more Kickstarters with gigantic waves like Advent of Decay. Instead, they've settled on several smallish waves a year of figures, and you get a month or more to come along and pre-order those figures if you want them. So from here on out, I can probably skip the in-stock sales in the supermarket sweep game show.
Terry's still going strong in the deli section. She's shopping for our fresh hams.
Although I never managed to get me one of those ice trolls, and I'd be willing to do an awful lot for the chance to get one of those at an affordable price.
Would you be a chicken for a Klondike bar?
They've got a new wave up for pre-order right now. If you're watching this video when it's new anyway. You probably have a few more days, through the end of September 2019, to get your hands on the Arethyr wave of figures. Back on July 26th, they did an online convention for Mythic Legions that they've been doing for a few years now they call G-Con. Not to be confused with the rat poison D-Con, they're not related. Or At least not closely related, might be second or third cousins, I don't know. G-Con is like a big, long Skype call. The Four Horsemen folks did interviews with the people who make the toys, make the art for the toys, or even make custom versions of the toys for fun and profit. They did giveaways to the folks commenting on the live stream.
So for this giveaway, we're giving away Sir Owain from the original Mythic Legions release.
And they did reveals of all the characters that were going to be available in the next wave.
So this is the Red Shield Soldier.
Then, as the stream came to an end, the pre-orders opened up on their website. There's a lot of good options to pick in this wave, or you can just go all in and buy the whole thing. I ain't got the cash for that stuff, but I think I'm gonna get Arethyr and his fiery steed Aethon. They look absolutely amazing. Also considering Belphegor. He looks like he'd be great alongside Zarya. I could have the beginnings of a cute little demon family, huh? Nice, right? Next year when Halloween rolls around again, I might have an even better display to show you if I get Arethyr. That'll be fun. Okay, see you next time. Thanks for watching Big Anklevich on Toys.